What is going on, guys? So Hell Night came out back in 1981. It was directed by Tom DeSimone, and it follows 4 college pledges who are forced to spend the night in an old, deserted mansion where they are stalked by a deranged, monstrous survivor of a family massacre which took place years earlier. Alright guys, this is my first time watching this film, and I gotta say I was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly enjoyed by it. As usual, we get on with the positives first and foremost. The 80s era slasher couldn't be any more perfect. You know, at the time you had Halloween, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I know that's more of a 70s movie, but you still had all those slashers coming out around the 80s. I guess you could say originally started in the 70s because Halloween came out in 78. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 74. But the 80s is where slasher movies shined. And this falls into that category. And I'm hearing that this is a very underrated movie, and that's probably true. But I don't know why. It's actually pretty good. I thought it was very original, which at the time, it was the early 80s. But the 80s were gold when it came to slasher horror. Hell Night fit right in there. It had all the right ingredients. It was tense, horrific, and plenty of exciting moments, if I do say so myself. The story was great. It was basically this killer who was roaming around this mansion who vowed to kill anybody who crosses it. And basically this killer is a survivor of this family massacre, of his own family massacre that pretty much freaked his mind up to the max. And let's see, he vows to kill anybody who crosses his path. Sound familiar? Friday the 13th, anybody? But yeah, he just snaps, and there's really no other way to put it. The killer was awesome. I do have a positive and a mixed side to this, which of course I'll get to the mix later. But the killer was pretty good. I liked him. I thought he showed the right amount of fear. At first he was very mysterious. I would say since he was like monstrous, he was deformed. I would have to say that this killer reminded me of a cross between Wrong Turn, Hills of Eyes, and Friday the 13th. He was very creepy. And as I mentioned, this film came out around the time when horror movies, slasher movies shined. You had Halloween, which already came out years prior. And I think this came out the same year Halloween 2 came out. And then you had Friday the 13th Part 2, which they were just starting out. A year earlier, the original one of that came out. So you had all these slasher films that just became cult classics. And even though they didn't really make any sequels to this one, they didn't even put an ending to it indicating one, I think this one falls right into it because it does follow a cult following. One might say that this film kind of capitalized on those Friday the 13th, but I don't think it did. Like I said, the Friday the 13th movies was just starting out. And that was the year that Jason was actually introduced. You don't really get to see Jason until the Friday the 13th sequel. So that's why I'm saying this movie came out that same year. So how could they be capitalized on something they don't know about yet? Just saying. But again, I could be wrong there. I'm just spouting off. I like to hear my self-talk, whatever. The characters was fine. Most notably, Linda Blair. I thought she did a really good job as the final girl. Now, I've never seen The Exorcist. Please don't steal me all at once. But after that film, she was trying to revitalize her image. So she posed for a 1982 issue of OUI magazine, I don't know how you pronounce that, in the nude. But all that did was land her B-rated films and short TV roles. Sorry, Linda Blair. Now, what was the name of that magazine? Damn. The set pieces was pretty cool, especially the house. I think that played a really big part in this film in a way. It was very dark, which I'll get into that in the mix later. And it was very creepy. It kind of reminded me of the Crypt Keeper's house, like an extended version of that from Tales from the Crypt. The gore and jump scares was pretty decent. I did jump quite a bit. The gore was pretty decent. It didn't have as much as they show nowadays in like Hatchet or something like that, but it was fairly decent. Way better than Motel Hell. You just never knew what to expect in this. And let's move on to the mixed. As I mentioned before about the killer, originally it was scripted to have only one killer. But the producers felt that they had to add more shock and more to the climax of this film. But there's a logic issue there. Now, if you go back to the beginning where the pledge leader, whoever, when they're making their way up to the house, he's explaining the story about the family massacre. And it makes it sound like implicated that there was only one survivor. So there should have been one killer. But I still enjoyed seeing it. It's like on set, they just changed it to like 2 killers while they were filming. That's what it seemed like to me. And it was a little premature, but I still enjoyed seeing it. And move on to the negatives, which I only have one negative. Going back to how the set pieces was and how dark it was a little too dark in some scenes. And some things were happening in those scenes that I wish I could see. But luckily they didn't last for long, but it was just so dark that I had to squint, try to figure out what the hell was going on. That's about the only problem I had with this film. Bottom line, if you want a great 80s horror slasher with plenty of nostalgia, then this will be a sweet delight. Notice I added one more rating to my rating system, because that rating seemed like it fit perfectly for this film. So, Hell Night, what did you think of it? Did you find it entertaining? Did you find 80s slashers an all-around delight? Or did you not care for it? Leave me your comments down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. Like, subscribe, and comment if you hadn't already. I should have more reviews coming soon. I did get a request to do the Descendants, and I've been getting requests to do Return of the Living Dead Part 2, and some others, which I will get around to those eventually. Peace, the Reptiles.